has just done the unthinkable with his dream team, guys, in getting the bill passed in the Senate, guys. This is so monumental, guys. Elon Musk, Doge, JD Vance, everything is coming together, and we have some amazing wins, guys. We got the receipts, we've got the changes, and it is amazing for everybody, guys, across the board. Middle class, low class, guys, we are winning. The Republican-controlled Senate advanced President Trump's package of the tax breaks, spending cuts, increases in Medicare, increases to Social Security, guys, increases to child tax credit, increases, guys, to overtime and the tip deductions, guys. They 100% made some deals, and this is back all in the big, beautiful bill that has been passed in the Senate. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. The Senate Republicans were able to find workarounds. I don't know how they did it, but they did. Around the Democrat Senate parliamentarian who was putting a lot of rulings that were stopping a lot of Trump's huge, big changes, guys, including removing Medicare from illegals receiving it. They got that put back in the bill, guys. They increased the Social Security tax breaks. They increased the Medicare, guys. This is huge. Tax relief for the seniors, and all this, guys, has already been passed. JD Vance, our vice president, came in late at night, put in the tie-breaking vote to make this all come to pass. We had some rhinos in there, like Senator Tom Tillis, who was called out and put on blast by Trump in a huge post, and this morning has just announced that he will not seek re-election. I mean, guys, you're talking about FAFO even in our own Congress. Do not mess with Trump's big, beautiful bill. They want it passed. They're getting it done, guys, and it's not only stopping there. They've also taken the next step with Comer over the House Oversight Committee, who has now issued multiple new subpoenas in the investigation of the Biden auto pin scandal. Karine Jean-Pierre, Ian Sams, Andrew Bates, Jeff Zients, the closest to Biden, who stated that there was no cognitive decline, have now been summoned to testify under oath. They are counting on these people to either give up Biden or perjure themselves, guys. We are living in some of the biggest historic times ever, guys. Big breaking news today, bombshell news, guys, all the way across the board, even with Pam Bondi, Bongino, Kash Patel, who are protecting America, have literally arrested 130 suspected terrorists that were sleeper cells here in the United States from Iran. Everybody's kicking butt right now, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but the big one is this Senate bill that not only had so much good stuff for Social Security, Medicare, and seniors and low class and middle class, but they took it up the next level. I'm going to give you the numbers in just a moment over the increases, guys, but this is winning for America. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to say thank you to everybody who is watching, to all of our subscribers, all of our viewers. We got a big show for you today, guys, because the Senate has been working over this weekend about dang time to get Trump's big, beautiful bill done, and they have done it with increases across the board. I want to say, if you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button, guys. Joining the TrueLife News family. We want you here. We want to serve you with the top news every single day, guys. Thank you to everybody that is a member, to everybody that has given a super chat donation. Remember, these members, when you're a membership or you give a super chat donation, we take this money and we donate it live on stream on the 22nd of every single month, live on stream, so you can see this channel is more than just bringing the truth. We are changing lives, and we donate it to local charities. I want to give some love to Michael Hendricks, E.A. Rumfield, Tammy Ash, Elaine Demeen. Show them some love in the chat, guys. If you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, we got a big, big show for you today, guys. We have increases for everybody across the board that have been changed in the Senate. We have so much wins for Social Security, Medicare, guys. We have wins for those, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. We've got huge wins for the standard deduction increase for just average everyday Americans that has been increased. So everybody is winning. Guys, so much is going on, guys. We got a big show for you today. It comes from the big wins we've been seeing. Check this out.
Another day, another win for President Trump. The Supreme Court of the United States sending a clear message to those rogue, low-level activist judges that they can no longer overrule the executive authority of the President of the United States.
Let's go.
I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers.
To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. 5 of those districts throughout this country held 35 of the nationwide injunctions. Think about that. 94 districts. And 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer. No longer.
Wow, the ruling 6-3.
Let's go,
along
baby.
with 3 dissenting justices, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan, who rule along ideological lines rather than the rule of law. The biggest decision today, though, birthright citizenship. The Supreme Court of the United States ruling that Trump was well within his scope of power to end birthright citizenship for illegal aliens.
Guys, and you don't realize how much this affects all the money that is coming out. There has been billions and billions of dollars, guys, that came out for, they already had it in place for these non-citizens. But now, because we've won and had these huge wins in the courts, and I just got to go ahead and show you guys, this is a beautiful screen that you're about to see right here. J.D. Vance didn't have to vote, but he did in the Senate. He did the Senate Majority Leader's job, Senator John Thune. He came in and not only convinced 3 other no's to flip to yes, but this is the screen right here, guys. Look at the bottom. Yays 51, nays 50 in the total, with J.D. Vance being the tiebreaker, guys. The big, beautiful bill has pushed past, and it is winning for American citizens, guys. This is what we voted for. Promises made, promises kept, because I'm telling you, what I'm about to show you in the next moment, with us winning in the Supreme Courts, with us actually passing this big, beautiful bill, there's provisions in there that are giving back to hard-working Americans who have paid into the system and deserve to get theirs.
That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves.
Trump, once again, he's putting an end to the grift of those anchor babies, the weaponization of a child to gain free services on the taxpayer dime. And speaking of babies, the Supreme Court also upholding Trump's push to give back power to parents in another 6-3 decision. Once again, along those ideological lines, the Supreme Court ruling in favor of a group of Maryland parents who sued a public school board over its refusal to allow elementary school children to be taken out of classes with LGBTQ plus times 10 themed storybooks.
I think the ruling was a great ruling, and I think it's a great ruling for parents. It's really a ruling for parents. They lost control of the schools. They lost control of their child. And this is a tremendous victory for parents. And I'm not surprised by it, but I am surprised that it went this far. It took us to bring life back to normal. So it's wonderful. It's parental. And I kept saying, we will give you back your parental rights. They were taken away, and this is a tremendous victory for parents.
Justice Alito writing for the majority.
Guys, if this isn't just such huge wins across the board, I got to go ahead and show you this, because again, remember, the common sense is coming back to America. Defunding Medicare for non-citizens, refugees, asylum seekers is back in the big, beautiful bill. Senate Republicans managed to work around the Democrat Senate parliamentarians' prior ruling. This right here, guys, is winning for every single American citizen. If you appreciate this, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up like button, this is where we're at, guys. That not only were we able to pull back and put so many provisions into this big, beautiful bill that now they were finding the workarounds for these Senate Democrats that are trying to stop Trump's big, beautiful bill. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Quote, a government burdens the religious exercise of parents when it requires them to submit their children to instruction that poses a very real threat of undermining the religious beliefs and practices that the parents wish to instill. He added, and a government cannot condition the benefit of free public education on parents' acceptance of such instruction. The effort to stop the indoctrination of our children, a unifying cause for all faiths. The Maryland parents who sued the school board came from Muslim, Roman Catholic, as well as Ukrainian faiths. Once again, common sense prevailing in the Supreme Court, despite the woke war waged by those three liberal dissenting justices. These women, why are they like this? I don't know. And while their opinions were of no surprise to anyone, Justice Coney Barrett's takedown of Justice Jackson,
let's go.
Well, it was more spectacular than any fireworks display, basically writing that Jackson is at odds with the Constitution itself. And then Barrett dropped the mother of all lines with, quote, Justice Jackson skips over that part because analyzing the governing statute involves boring legalese. Legalese means the formal and technical language of legal documents that is often hard to understand.
What?
So did Justice Barrett just say that Jackson is too stupid to understand how to do her job? Ouch. Even MSNBC admitting that this is a big L for libs and a huge win for Team Trump.
Guys, again, the big wins. Even Trump came out and hails this great victory as Senate advances tax breaks and the spending cut plan, guys. I mean, it is just across the board. Wins every single day for the American people, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The Republican-controlled Senate advanced President Trump's package of tax breaks, spending cuts, and increased deportation money. And that's not even it, guys. They increased the standard deduction from $14,600 to $16,000, guys. They increased the child tax credit by 10%. They increased the Social Security tax break. So increase, guys. Before, they had it at basically giving every single... Let me go ahead and do this, guys. Let me do it because this is all breaking news as it's happening. They basically had the increase of giving an essentially $333 back to taxpayers that are on Social Security each month. But now they've increased it from $333 per month to $500 per month, guys. This is the new changes that are in the bills where everybody is winning. Edward Wheeler, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's go. Welcome to the family at, it literally just says at, Thomas Ontranto, pray big, we have a big God. Let's go. And thank you so much, Squint61, welcome to the family. I love it. Show them some love in the chat, guys. So much big news that you're about to hear because this is just win after win after win.
Unconstitutional behavior to follow the Constitution? Hey, was it constitutional to usurp the power of the presidency, to thwart the mandate given to Trump by almost 80 million Americans, to try and put Trump behind bars for life on trumped-up charges because he was the front runner for the White House? What these Supreme Court decisions ultimately tell the country and the world is it is putting Democrats on notice once and for all. Your days of weaponizing the Justice Department are finally over.
Guys, and again, what I have to show you next is so powerful because again, too, we are now have the official documents, guys. We bring you the receipts on this channel. Right here is the official documents sent by the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform from James Comer. Look, these are the actual documents. Karine Jean-Pierre, Jeffrey Zients, Andrew Bates, and Ian Sams. All these people who tried to cover up and tried to keep Trump in jail or try to put him in jail with lawfare. All these people that worked on behalf of Biden, the auto pin, all these things have now been officially summoned by the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform to testify over the biggest scandal in American history. Trump is over here winning for Americans, and Biden is over here in his administration about to answer for all the media legacy lies, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Media. That very same Jake Tapper media and half the country mocked conservatives and told us we were crazy for 4 years. The legacy media scoffed at places like Newsmax, who dared to suggest that there was anything wrong with Joe Biden. You're not a doctor. You can't say that. You don't have a medical degree. But you were right all along. 80-year-old Joe Biden was in the throes of dementia or something worse. And as the night went on, it only got worse.
Dealing with everything we have to do with, look, and I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
I was an 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
And that very same Jake Tapper who decided to play it straight that night was the very same Jake Tapper who tried to embarrass Laura Trump on national TV. How dare she try to make fun of Joe Biden's lisp during the campaign? Joe Biden's got a lisp that Joe apparently suffered from when he was 8 years old and completely disappeared for 70 years. According to Jake Tapper, was suddenly back. And he asked Laura Trump how she thought children out there with lisps would feel about someone insulting somebody with a lisp, not realizing in his immense arrogance that not a single child in the world with a lisp would ever watch his show. And if they were, I think they would think it was silly.
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses, diagnosing politicians from afar.
Guys, you want to see how deep it's getting, guys? Look at this. Biden autopin controversy deepens as aide testifies on approval process. So, we just found out that Biden's approval process never went through him. Guys, this is about as bad as it gets, guys. And this is coming from ABC. That every single time, every single action didn't even go through Biden himself as the president of the United States. And that's why every single one of the closest people, his senior aides, even the White House press secretary has now been subpoenaed to testify, guys. Is this not winning for America? We're winning with the big, beautiful bill, and we're winning with justice to expose the corruption and fraud.
But Jake was in on the cover-up from day one. That's the truth. And Jake, you don't need a medical degree to see that something was clearly wrong and is wrong with Joe Biden. All you needed from the start were 2 eyes and a brain, Jake. But we can see the headline tomorrow. CNN, Newsmax host insults one-eyed people. Oh, the humanity. The next morning, all of Joe's horses and all of Joe's men in the legacy media tried their very best to put Joe Biden back together again. And the same people that lied to us before the debate continued to lie to us after the debate.
I've said it for years now. He's cogent. But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
Wow.
It was too late, though. It was over for Joe, and it was over for Democrats. They didn't know it at the time, and Joe hung around for 3 more weeks until finally the calls for him to drop out grew too loud. George Clooney would write his little op-ed, but instead of doing the right thing, instead of holding some sort of primary where people get to actually vote in a democracy, remember all that stuff about democracy? Kamala Harris was just anointed queen of the universe. And Democrats, like they always do, fell right in line. But the most stunning part of this entire sordid tale is that the media immediately did too. The same Joe Biden liars. And the same cover-up artists like Jake Tapper spent 2 months trying to convince the public that Kamala was some astounding combination of FDR, JFK, and Barack Obama. She was not. They tried to convince us that she was one of the great thinkers of our time. She is not. Married to a guy that knocked up his third-grade daughter's nanny and was accused of slapping his ex-girlfriend in the face in France, coincidentally, right before he would meet Kamala. Kamala and Dougie, soon to become American royalty, but that, thankfully, never came to pass.
Guys, and I'm telling you, like, it's when we're looking back at everything right now, and Trump is not playing around. If you appreciate this truth, guys, if you don't mind hitting the thumbs up like button right here. Trump called out Senator Tom Tillis. He says, look, Senator Tom Tillis, as usual, wants to tell the nation that he's giving them a 68% tax increase as opposed to the biggest tax cut in American history, guys. Look what he said. He literally calls for Tom Tillis to step aside, to be primaried. And within less than 24 hours, guys, the announcement comes that Trump torched him, and now Tom Tillis will not seek re-election. Guys, this is the biggest change in American history, that people are being held accountable like never before, guys. This is winning. This is putting MAGA first. This is actually what you're about to hear next, guys, is the biggest changes. A lot of changes that are happening in the Senate, but it is wins for America, guys, because we're bringing in the people that actually know what's going on. Sassy Madeline, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's go. Y'all show Sassy some love in the chat. Check this out.
Forward to these next few days, and I hope the conservatives in the Senate hold the line. Guys like Mike Lee, Ron Johnson, Rick Scott, they've been doing a great job trying to negotiate this thing to a better place, but it's not where it needs to be.
Let me ask you again. What the Senate said? $1 trillion. What, they haven't gotten rid of the green room scam? What else? What else did they do?
Well, a lot of the important provisions that we put in there are getting stripped out. So, to give you an example, like there was provision in there to end the tax and regulation on silencers. That was stripped out. There was a provision in there to ensure that there weren't tax dollars going to transgender surgeries. That was stripped out in the Obamacare subsidies. There was a tax in there to tax these universities, endowments, these liberal universities at 28%. That was watered down to 8%. There are provisions in there to deal with the food stamps. They took out of $100 billion worth of our reforms to make food stamps be going to the actual needy, not the able-bodied. And this is all of those things. I could go down a laundry list, Steve, and I'm happy to, and I'll put out some of the graphics and charts. I can get those to your team. They're on my social media, and we'll keep putting them out. But the key here is that you add all that up, we're not getting the policies we want, but importantly, we're losing savings, and the cost of this thing is going up. Because, look, you and I both want all the tax cuts. We want them extended. We want them permanent. But there's a reality that you got to figure out the math. You got to have the spending restraint going alongside that, right? So Medicaid, right? Our hardworking Americans don't need to have their Medicaid taken away. But the able-bodied who should be working, the people that are engaging in fraud, the people that are, abusing the system in a money laundering scheme to enrich hospitals and insurance companies, those guys, we need to reform. So that's what's all getting watered down over in the Senate. So we're going to keep working on it, trying to get that back. And again, the Green New scam, we want those things to end. I mean, again, in the House, Steve, I fought like freaking cats and dogs to get 60% of it taken out, right? And we think we did that. It was a good bill to get rid of the 60% future projects, but it would leave all of the existing projects in place, which personally I don't think is good enough. But, you take the deal that you can get. Well, now the Senate's watering that down. So now we would allow probably half or some significant chunk of future projects. And that's not what termination means. You got to end these scam subsidies, or we're not going to have a strong grid, and we're going to continue to empower China. They also watered down. We had language in our bill to prohibit some of this stuff going to China and the foreign interest for solar panels and batteries, all that stuff. They watered that down because most of these guys want to protect their corporate cronies in their states and their districts who are, I need my subsidies so I can have a better bottom line. Well, that's not what the American people sent us here to do, Steve.
The first line of defense is the Senate. It's Ron Johnson and Mike Lee and these hawks in the Senate. Do you anticipate that they will get a lot of this change even before it comes back to you guys?
Guys, oh man, I just got to show you this breaking news that just came out from the leader, Senator John Thune. Trump just told them some big stuff. He literally said, lock yourselves in a room, get this done, or else. Listen to this.
We need to get it done. Failure here is not an option. And this is the fulfillment and implementation, this bill, of the president's agenda. It's securing the border, it's modernizing our military, it's making America energy dominant, it's tax relief for working families, it's reducing the size and scale and cost of government by getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. This is what the American people voted for, and that's what we intend to deliver. So failure is not an option. There's a lot, as you would expect, a lot of swirl at this point in the legislative process, and so we're hearing people out, working, responding to their feedback and taking their input, trying to incorporate things into the bill that make it stronger and better, but we have to get this done, and I'm hopeful that we will succeed by the end of the week here in the Senate. Then we'll see what the House can do, and if we can get it on the president's desk.
So right there, guys, you can see, you can't see it on the bottom of the screen, but Trump told the Senate, lock yourself in a room if you must. Get the bill done. Guys, this is big stuff. Like, stuff is breaking and they're in Congress, and stuff is happening as we speak, as we're going through all this news, guys, and we just want to make sure you get the most breaking news as it's happening.
I'm hopeful. Rick Scott, Mike Lee, Ron Johnson, you point out very well. Those three in particular have been working very hard to try to improve the bill. They're holding the line. They need to keep holding the line. Look, they're going to get a lot of pressure from the White House, which, you know, God love them. They're my friends, and we want to get the border money, and we want to get the taxes extended. We want to deliver for the president, but we got to get something better than we're getting. And so these guys are going to have to hold the line. We need the White House to put pressure on the moderates, not the conservatives, put pressure on the moderates to stop messing with the deal. And hopefully the Senate can hold the line and get it over to us so we can pass it. But I can promise you there's a bunch of us over here in the House who are not happy with it if the Senate, if they relent in the Senate and send it over to us.
By the way, you can't see this, but the front page of the Financial Times of London is a massive story. Investors flee U.S. long-term bonds in fear of soaring debt, 11 billion outflow. And it's exactly because of debt and the deficits. Are people up there taking this seriously? That now we're not able, we're kind of like in Japan, where investors are uncomfortable buying 20-year and 30-year bonds from the United States government?
Steve, finally, way too late, my colleagues are starting to wake up to this reality, which is why we got the bill that we got through the House. But the problem is, too many of the senators and too many of my colleagues still don't get the urgency, and they don't understand that to get this done, they're going to have to make tough decisions, right? You have to make the hard calls. You got to go look to somebody who built a solar company based on the subsidies and saying, sorry, man, you made a bad bet, but we're going to stop the subsidies. We'll give you a year to wind it down, but we're done. And we got to look at people and be honest about it. We got to tell people that, hey, Medicaid needs to be there for the hardworking people who depend on it.
Yes.
But we're not going to allow the able-bodied to get 7 times as much money as the vulnerable. We're going to fix it. We're going to end the money laundering. We're going to end the grips. And you got to tell the hospitals, you're not going to keep getting all this subsidized money. So these guys have got to get serious about it. Republicans are always good about the tax cuts, but they're never good about the spending cuts. And so here we sit, $37 trillion in debt.
Guys, we are seeing some big stuff right now. President Trump was working the phones in the Oval Office while J.D. Vance was on the Senate floor convincing holdouts to vote for the big, beautiful bill. This is the dream team in action, guys. Pence could never have pulled this off, what J.D. Vance is doing. Vance was the key in getting Senator Johnson, Mike Lee, Scott, and Murkowski on board per punch bowl, guys. This is the dream team, baby. Show some love in the chat, guys. Camp Goer 1, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's go. He said, can you imagine if the election was rigged again? The horror Americans would be in today. MAGA too big to rig. Baby, let's go. I love it. Thank you so much, Sue Ellen in Washington. Let's go. Della Cole said, I love it. No vacation time until they pass the bill. They need to be working. They deserve no vacation. They've had too many. Tree Man, welcome to the family. Guys, show them some love in the chat. We got some breaking news over what's happening right now in this big, beautiful bill, guys. Because again, too, everybody's covering it right now, and we want to show you exactly what's happening because they just got done reading it. The Democrats forced them. Let me go ahead and bring that over. The Democrats forced them to read the entire bill, which was over 900 pages of like the actual stuff that they had to read. But again, I'm actually for this because regardless if you don't agree with them actually reading the bill or not, we need to know what's in it. We need to have it on the record. So the big victory of having to vote to advance the big, beautiful bill into the Senate passed. Every page of the 940-page bill is being read about, ordered by Chuck Schumer. And then there's going to be 20 hours of debate, guys. This is like, we're in the depths of it. Listen to this because it is getting crazy.
On the Senate floor, clerks are reading all 940 pages of the big, beautiful bill out loud as part of a Democratic stalling tactic.
This after...
Regardless if they stall it or not, it's still making so much difference. If you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting the thumbs up like button, thank you so much for your support.
Senate Republicans narrowly voted to advance Trump's agenda last night, pushing the legislation finally into its final hours of debate.
Yes.
And Chad Pergram joins us live from Capitol Hill with the latest. Chad, it's so good to have you on to help us break it all down. So we know they were reading this thing overnight, hopefully not falling asleep, which sounds like the most likely outcome of that. But what else is going on? What's holding up? What are the senators that are holding their votes? What do they want from the president? We saw Ron Johnson came back over and said, okay, I'm going to vote for it over some Medicaid stuff that he got changed. But what are the other holdouts?
Yeah, right now, we think that they will probably be able to have the votes. As I always say, it's about the math. So they got 51 votes last night to move forward. This was a test vote just to start debate on the bill. And, there were 2 Republican no's, Tom Tillis, Republican of North Carolina, and Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky. President Trump, he excoriated.
Rand Paul was the other one. It was Tom Tillis and Rand Paul, guys. Let me know what you think about Rand Paul, because some of the stuff he says is good, but dang it, some of the other stuff is just crazy.
Rand Paul on Twitter, on Truth Social, I should say. But he really tore into Tom Tillis, saying that he was grandstanding and indicating that maybe he should deserve a primary challenge. So right now, they could pass the bill as is if they get Ron Johnson. Sometimes people vote to proceed to a bill. They vote on a procedural vote. They vote yes. But even if it came down to 50-50, they would still have the votes because Vice President Vance could break the tie. And that's one of the reasons that he came to the Capitol last night, because they thought they might need that vote because there were 3 Republican nays on the board. So right now, they're in the middle of reading this bill. This started at 11:08. Last night, what happens is you have this rotation of reading clerks on the dais on the lower right of the screen, and they literally read the bill out loud. You talked a few minutes ago about perfume. Well, I wonder if these guys, like the opera singers, might have taken a shot of perfume in the mouth there, but they certainly have the Hall's throat lozenges and Cepastat ready to go, but they rotate every so often. And the interesting thing is that very few senators, if any, are in the chamber listening to this. This happened all night. And technically, this is what's supposed to happen. They're technically supposed to read the bill out loud. There are what they call 3 readings of a bill. And in the old days, there was only one copy of the bill. It was written on parchment paper. They did this with a scroll and a quill. So if you didn't actually see the bill, you could heard it read, and it was pretty short. And you got 3 chances to be in the chamber to hear it. What routinely happens is the clerk reads just the title of the bill, and then somebody asks unanimous consent to say we're going to terminate the reading of the bill. That happens almost constantly. And so here, Chuck Schumer objected, and that is his right, and you're allowed to, have them read the bill. The last time this happened was in March of 2021 on the $1.9 trillion coronavirus bill, and it was Ron Johnson, the Republican from Wisconsin, who objected and made them read the bill. So here's the timetable. They get through this reading, which we don't really know how long that's going to be. We're thinking sometime in the middle of the day, maybe 12, maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The Ron Johnson situation in 2021, that took 10 hours and 43 minutes. And then they go to up to 20 hours of debate. Now, we don't think that they will take all of that time. And then you go to what's called a vote-a-rama. A vote-a-rama is where they vote and they vote and they vote. And this can be a little bit organic because sometimes people offer amendments and they can change the bill. And maybe there's an amendment to the bill that somebody doesn't like, and it alters the bill, and they're like, I can't vote for this now. Or maybe somebody who is on the fence, the amendment is adopted, and they say, hey, you know, that's good, so I'm for the bill now. And then you go to final passage. We thought that the final passage vote, and again, this is very hard to read. I looked deep into my crystal ball right now, but I tell you, it's in the shop, and it has a bad fuse. We were thinking maybe in the very early hours of Monday morning, maybe about 5:45, 6 o'clock. I think it's going to be later than that, probably during the daylight hours. And then, because this is a very different product from what the House of Representatives approved in May, they have to process this and send it back across the Capitol.
CBO.
And remember that there's a lot of House Republicans who don't like this. They like the House bill. They could only pass that version of the bill with one vote back in May. And so if you're going to get this done by the 4th of July, they have to sync up. And guys, the House pretty much has to take the Senate version if they're going to get this done this week.
Any indication on the House side whether or not they would take whatever revised version the Senate comes up with?
You know, I talked to multiple members last week who were very skeptical of this. Chip Roy, Republican of Texas, was very vocal against this. Michael Cloud, Republican of Texas. You had some others. Eric Burleson, Republican of Missouri. They say, look, this is the bill that we passed. We thought it was going to get better in the Senate and then come back to us. They would argue, and this is what Chip Roy said on Friday afternoon, it got worse. Right. But here is the magic bullet. You know that President Trump, he really lays into these Republican members. And that's the best whip that Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, has in the House of Representatives.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned.
All right, guys, I want to show you because Andy pointed it out. This is a big thing coming from Elon Musk. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much, Andy, for the super chat. He said the latest Senate draft bill will destroy millions of jobs in America and cause immense strategic harm to our country. Utterly insane and destructive. It gives handouts to industries of the past while severely damaging industries of the future. Does he know something, guys? Because Elon Musk, he's been saying some crazy stuff. He pulled back on some of the crazy stuff he said to Trump, but now he's coming again out for this bill and just obliterating it left and right. Trump came out, said he still likes Elon Musk. So he's not said anything negative about Elon Musk. Macro Log, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's go. He said, promises made, promises kept. I love it. Y'all show Macro Log and Andy some love in the chat. Let me know, do you side with Elon Musk or are you siding with Trump on what's coming out? I want you to listen to this because this again too is Trump speaking himself over what is actually happening, guys. We bring you all the receipts. Check this out.
Move on to the big, beautiful bill, and you have asked to have this on your desk by July 4th. You think you're going to get it in that timing?
I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you that. I hate to say yes. I'd like to say yes, but the problem is if we're 2 days late or 5 days late, everybody says, oh, you had a tremendous failure. Whatever it is, as long as we have it, it's very important. If we don't have it, there's a 68% tax increase. If we don't have it, the debt ceiling extension is very important. They gave a debt ceiling, the Republicans gave a debt ceiling because of the importance of doing it. They did that for the good of the country, and Republicans voted for that. They did a big favor. I don't know that I would have done it, to be honest with you, but whatever. They did a favor. Now the Democrats won't do that favor back. In other words, you never want to violate your debt covenants. So they gave, you know what I'm saying, they gave this 4 months early. It was due on September 28th, right before the election. A group of Republicans got together and said, you know what, this is so serious. We should do this for the good of the country. I understand that. Now it's their turn to do it, and they won't do it. There are a lot of bad people in the Democrat Party.
How are you going to deal with the $9 trillion that's coming due this year?
Just turn it over. Oh, well, let me tell you that we're going to do it this way. We're going to turn it over short term because we have a stupid person at the Fed. If he would lower the rates, but I don't want to have to pay for 10 years debt at a higher rate. And then we're going to get somebody into the Fed who's going to be able to lower the rates. We should be at 1% or 2%. If you look at Switzerland, they're the lowest right now. They're at much less than 1 point. And frankly, we should be there too, because Without the United States, the whole world doesn't work.
And you've teased a couple of names. You said you have a couple of people in mind
I have
as a
three.
successor to Jay Powell.
They'll all be good, yeah.
But you're not going to do that right now. So why do that? Just to put more pressure on him to come in?
People go, no, because reporters ask me, I mean, do you have other names? And I say, yeah, I do. Anybody but Powell.
And would it be Kevin Walsh?
He's a bad person. Yeah. Kevin is very talented, but I don't know if it's going to be him, but he's a very talented guy. He wouldn't be doing what Powell is.
Mr. President, I think I know your priorities in the big, beautiful bill. I mean, obviously, you want to get the tax cuts extended, and you've got other tax cuts.
Any other things, though, takes care of the border. There's also no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime.
But I've spoken to a few senators, and they've gotten together, like Rick Scott and Ron Johnson and Mike Lee. And, you know, Rick Scott's worried about the overall cost, and Mike Lee is worried about the Inflation Reduction Act. And, you know...
the Inflation Reduction Act is what caused a lot of problems.
So why don't you just take that out?
It was the Biden administration.
Why are there still green subsidies in there?
I'm all for that. I think we shouldn't be giving money to all of these scams. But what happened is some of them have been started, like projects. And if you stop it, it's in the middle. So I understand that too. And people work there and they're, working there and they're from the district of a Congress.
Guys, listen to this. If you're reading the bottom, the Biden administration left President Trump and the GOP with $7 trillion in new spending and overall inflation at 20% plus, guys. This is the insane, huge stuff that we're trying to deal with. They're trying to fight against. But this is, again, too, it goes back to this right here, which we're going to show you in a moment. The Biden auto pin controversy deepens as aide testifies on the approval process. There was no approval process through Biden. It was all happening by people that wanted to destroy America. And because of that, that's what we're facing with this huge, big, beautiful bill, with all the interest rates being so high that for some freaking reason, Jerome Powell doesn't want to lower the interest rates, even though inflation is so low. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. What should happen to Biden because of this? Because what you're about to hear next is huge. Comer is not playing around. He's working in step with Trump to go after the Biden administration. If you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting the thumbs up like button, because it is getting really deep.
Or a senator. But no. The Inflation Reduction Act was another Biden scam. And when I say Biden, it's not Biden. It was the lunatics that work around the, in the Oval Office, around the beautiful Resolute desk. It's not Biden, because I don't think Biden knew what was happening. I think that the auto pen is one of the biggest scandals in the history of this country, because the person that operated the auto pen was the president of the United States. And I think that that's going to be sought out, and we're going to find out what happened.
Well, I believe it's this week, that's 1 year ago, which was the debate where his mental capacity was exposed to so many people who didn't know it. Many of us saw it, obviously, in advance. And now James Comer at the Oversight Committee wants lots of people to come in. Who would you like to see come in and testify on that? Under oath.
I would say Lisa, who was in there.
Is that the deputy AG at the time?
Yeah,
Lisa Monaco.
Who was a big supporter of Andrew Weissman. These are people that I think are very bad people. They had radical left lunatics working there, and they took over that office. They didn't want Biden, and then after a little while, they realized he's incompetent. This is really a good thing, and they ran that thing. Look, Biden was never for open borders. Biden was never for transgender for everybody. He was never for men playing in women's sports. He was never for that. Biden is a disaster. This is a disaster. But the worst thing that he's done to us, inflation is terrible, but I've solved that problem already. Inflation is bad and other things are bad and many things are, and the fact that we have no respect all around the world for the country, but now we do I think maybe at the high, we took it from the lowest to the highest level in 6 months. But if you look at what he did to the border, is so bad. So much of my time is spent on the border. Last month we had no people coming up.
I know. What you do.
But the bad part is he let in 21 million people. And we have to check those people. Totally unvetted, totally unchecked. And 11,888 have murdered people. Half of them have murdered more than one person. People come in from gangs, from prisons. They emptied out, Venezuela emptied out its prisons.
Have you been backing away from this, though? Because recently you said, let's ease up on, taking in people who are working, hardworking, like in farms and hotels.
I don't back away. What I do I cherish our farmers. And when we go into a farm and we take away people that have been working there for 15 and 20 years who are good, who possibly came in incorrectly, and what we're going to do is we're going to do something for farmers where we can let the farmer sort of be in charge.
Yes.
The farmer knows he's not going to hire a murderer. But, when you go into a farm and he's had somebody working with him for 9 years doing this kind of work, which is hard work to do, and a lot of people aren't going to do it, and you end up destroying a farmer because you took all the people away, it's a problem. I'm on both sides of the thing. I'm the strongest immigration guy that there's ever been, but I'm also the strongest farmer guy that there's ever been. And that includes also hotels and, places where people work, a certain group of people work. So we're working on it right now. We're going to work it so that some kind of a temporary pass where people pay taxes, where the farmer can have a little control as opposed to you walk in and take everybody away. But no, the criminals are going out of this country.
Right, you said it from the beginning.
Yes. And guys, I want to show you this because this is so important. I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Tracy J. Norby. Let's go, brother. Said, miss you, brother. Been busy. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We're family. I love it. The True Life News family. Show Mr. Norby some love in the chat, as well as MZ Mocha 54, a.k.a. April Green. Let's go. I love it. 130 suspected Iranian terrorists here illegally arrested last week. Guys, this stuff we're not playing around with when it comes to people that are in the United States because of the Biden administration that have 100% allowed for people that would do some very, very terrible things. And that's why what you're about to hear next, because this is about as bad as it gets. But what I love is that there is 100% accountability that is coming, guys, and this is a win for everybody. Mr. Norby with the super chat. Let's go, brother. I love it. He said, here's part of one of my royalties. I'll give more in the 22nd, brother Joel. Thanks for getting our family the truth, brother. No illegals been getting in that we know about. Let's go. What a great True Life News family. The all. I love it, guys. OG of the channel. Show Mr. Norby some love in the chat, guys. Dropping the truth bombs. But what you're about to hear next, guys, again, the biggest cover-up in U.S. history right here. But we actually have accountability. Check it out.
That disastrous debate. Now Republicans are ramping up their investigation into how Democrats hid former President Biden's mental decline for so very long. Hello, everyone. I am Molly Line, along with David Webb, Madison Allworth, and Jason Chaffetz. This is the Big Weekend Show. Work husband, after he refused to show up to a deposition hearing. Chairman James Comer is also requesting testimony from other key players in America's biggest political cover-up, including former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, Senior Advisor in the White House Counsel's Office, Ian Sams, Senior Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates, and former Chief of Staff Jeff Zients. A long list. What they are trying to find out is how this was completely denied time and time again. Here is a reminder of how Democrats tried to run cover for Biden.
This report spends time making gratuitous and inappropriate criticisms of the president.
The stuff in this report that is capturing all of your attention right now is just wrong. It's flatly wrong. It is inappropriate. It is gratuitous. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith.
Well, very memorable, former top Biden aide. Neera Tanden is cooperating, and we're expected to hear from Biden's physician as well, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, on July 9th. Now, joining us for tonight's Big Close-Up is House Oversight Committee Chairman and Kentucky Congressman James Comer. Sir, thank you for giving us a little of your time on this Saturday night. I know it's been pretty busy there in Washington. As we talk about this cover-up, the left, the media on the left has finally acknowledged that this occurred. Are you expecting any cooperation from the left, from the politicians, from Democrats, as this continues to go forward, depending on what you find along the way?
Well, I'll tell you, this is totally different than what I faced with the Biden influence peddling investigation. Every time we would bring someone in for a deposition, anytime new evidence would surface in the form of bank records, Democrat politicians like Jamie Raskin and Dan Goldman would go on TV and say there was no evidence, I was misrepresenting what those bank statements and those foreign wires really meant. Then the left-wing media would attack me, no evidence, their deposition was a bomb. Now we're bringing people in, and the media is not saying a word, and the Democrats aren't saying a word. We had that transcribed interview, 4 hours of Nira, and they didn't say an absolute word. They only asked questions for about 5 minutes. They know there was a cover-up. The media knows it. The Tapper book went into great detail about the cover-up, and I think they know this book by Jean-Pierre could even be more explosive than the Tapper book because it reportedly names names, whereas Tapper's book had unnamed sources. So we're going to bring all these people in, and we're going to do the American people a great service. We're going to find out who was actually calling the shots in the White House, because I think we all know that Joe Biden wasn't the one that was making the decisions, and we also want to know about the auto pen. Who was given the authority to use the auto pen? Did Joe Biden know what his name was being signed to? So we've got a lot of work to do, but so far we're not facing much resistance.
Chairman,
let's go.
You mentioned the book, and I think...
Guys, remember, the only reason that they're not facing much resistance is because they know they've already lost. They only put up resistance, remember, whenever he was in president, when they actually had something to stand on. But now that all this stuff is coming out, Biden auto pen controversy deepens as aide testifies on approval process. Nira Tanden, she said that Biden wasn't even available, wasn't even there for the majority of the signatures on even being asked. Guys, this just shows you when they don't have anything to stand on, that's whenever they're just like, whatever, let's give them up. Let's just tell them what happened, because they know the DOJ is not messing around right now, and they will hold them accountable. If you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting the thumbs up like button, we are seeing some big stuff right now.
While there's so much strong stuff in it, like you said, the sources are not named, but you guys are calling in essentially what we imagine to be most of those sources. You alluded to this, but do we have any sense of, in terms of the auto pen, what pieces may have been controlled by folks outside of Biden's orbit? Do you have any sense yet about that?
Yeah, we learned a lot from Nira Tanden in her transcribed interview. She answered all of our questions. She was the staff secretary. If you look at President Trump, anytime there's an executive order, his staff secretary is the person that stands behind him and announces what this is and what he's signing. The same was the case with President Obama. But with Joe Biden, what we learned, his staff secretary had very limited access to him. And what we learned from Nira Tanden is there was a small circle, an inner circle, that called all the shots in the Biden White House. We've gotten the names of that inner circle, and many of them have already been announced as people that we've sent letters requesting to come in, and or we're going to be sending them a subpoena to come in. But we will hear from everyone that was involved in the inner circle, because we need to know if Joe Biden's name was forged on all of these pardons, if Joe Biden's name was forged on these executive orders, because that could have a huge impact in court where many of these executive orders are going to end up.
Chairman Jason Chaffetz here. Let's move on to the big, beautiful bill, because the House passed it. It's sitting over at the Senate. They've started that process now. And the goal that the president has is to have it on his desk by July 4th. My understanding is that the House Republicans, they had a call this afternoon to discuss some of the changes that might happen. What did you learn on that call, and where do you think we are right now in this process?
Well, we're still a long way in the process, Jason. We know the timeline. We know that this is the president's agenda. This is what he campaigned on. We know this is of the utmost importance to President Trump and to the majority of Americans who voted for President Trump. But the specific details of some of the changes with respect to Medicaid and some other things, we're still learning those. So this is a big bill. As you know, Jason, you spent a lot of time in Congress. We're still digesting all the information.
The Senate, they're just now beginning the process, and you know how slow they are in the Senate, but we fully expect the Senate to pass that bill out in the next 48 hours, depending on how much Democrat obstruction there is. Then we plan on voting on the bill on either Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. So that would hopefully meet President Trump's July the 4th deadline.
Chairman David Webb here. Great to talk to you again. I get that you want to have this vote by Tuesday and Wednesday, but you've got the members of the SALT caucus, you've got other members of the House. When this comes back from the Senate, should they be successful in their passage, what will happen there? Will the SALT caucus hold the president's agenda that the American people voted for hostage to their blue state and local tax issues?
It's my understanding the SALT caucus is pretty happy. So I think they're in line. Of course, that can change. I've dealt with some of those guys, and they'll flip at the blink of an eye. But right now, I think they're in a pretty good position. With respect to the holdouts now, there are two issues that I think that are still lingering. Some of the members, Mike Lee had a provision in there, I believe, to sell some federal land. There are a few Republicans out west that have some concerns about that. They haven't said they're against the bill yet. But then the big obstacle, of course, is Medicaid, and we're still trying to understand the changes that the Senate made to the House version of Medicaid. So that's probably the biggest obstacle in the House is the changes to Medicaid. But as we to pretty much determine whether or not we'll have the votes to pass it or not. But I feel pretty good. I think that everyone in our conference knows this is what President Trump campaigned on. This is our moment. We've got to get it done, and hopefully we'll be there for the president.
Chairman Comer, thank you.
Guys, and this is big stuff because, again, what this goes down to is this is one of the biggest fights. What you're seeing on the screen is one of the biggest fights out there. Defunding the Medicare for non-citizens, refugees, asylum seekers is back in the big, beautiful bill. The Senate parliamentarian, this lady, Senator Elizabeth Marcado, something like that, she pulled it out. Well, the Senate Republicans found a way to put it back in. And so now that it is in, what it's doing is providing, guys, I'm not listen to these factors, guys. We spend upwards of over $200 billion a year. Guys, a year, $200 billion on non-citizens for Medicare. So when they pull this out, you're talking about some big savings going back to the American taxpayer. And what it has to do with is the immigration, which you're about to hear with next. Because again, the more that we keep the money that's for American citizens in our pockets, the bigger the increases are, guys. Check this out.
Soon be in trouble. Yeah. Steve Cortez, this is about the 14th Amendment birthright citizenship. A major ruling today about these radical judges, the judicial insurrection against President Trump's agenda. And this is what I keep telling people. We must focus on this now. This has to be 150% of our focus. We cannot go wandering around the Middle East looking for another war. No matter what, we have to focus. We have to focus on this now. President's going to talk about the 14th Amendment. Why is this important? You know, you sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. And you're seeing this now in New York City on Tuesday, and you got all kind of people hitting the panic button. This has been a long time in building, and President Trump has sounded the warnings on this. Steve Cortez, the War Room Posse, the War Room, Steve Bannon, Steve Miller, many other people. How important is this situation in New York City is tied to what President Trump's just about to talk about on the 14th Amendment?
No, absolutely it is. And the situation in New York is yet another reminder that unfortunately the porous border situation, really open border, of course, during Biden, but for decades, a porous border, pro-mass migration agenda has materially changed the United States and for the worse. I mean, think of how much better off this country would be, for example, if we had not welcomed in people like George Soros and Ilhan Omar. And now it looks like soon-to-be Mayor Mamdani in New York City. How much better as a country we would be if those folks were not welcomed by the leftists and globalists into this land. Now, look, I think we need an overall pause on legal immigration, zero illegal, and I think we need a pause on legal immigration. But I think even people who are for orderly, vetted, legal immigration in this country need to come to terms with only allowing people in who love this country, who share our values, who will be true contributors in every sense, not just...
Guys, why is that so hard to ask? If you're moving to our country and you want to be a citizen, you actually have to like our country, love our country, not come in and then spend lots of money trying to destroy everything about it. Like, it literally makes no sense.
Economically, but that's important, but in every sense to this country. We have not been demanding of our migrants in recent decades, and because of that, we haven't done immigration very well. A century ago, when we were last at these kinds of levels of migration in terms of percentages of the United States, we're at all-time highs now, but the last time we were near this level, we were incredibly demanding of migrants. We promised them nothing, we demanded assimilation, and we were frankly pretty brutal, which is one reason why a lot of them didn't make it. A lot of them decided to go back. That was appropriate. We have an entirely different construct in recent decades that we need to now reckon with, and birthright citizenship is certainly part of it. Now, it appears, I mean, this ruling, of course, is just out. I didn't have a chance to read the whole thing. It appears that it's very narrowly tailored to that issue, but much broader about trying to prohibit these ridiculous nationwide injunctions, and that might be an even bigger issue, as important as birthright citizenship is. If we could stop these injunction edicts from these judges acting like tyrants and kings, that might be even more beneficial for the United States. But we know for a fact that birthright citizenship has been systemically abused in the United States. We know that the founders did not intend it as it has been interpreted in recent decades. And so hopefully we're on our way to quickly reversing this. And that will be part of a broader sovereignty pitch that is so necessary for so many reasons. Again, for national security, for street safety, for the cohesion and consensus of the United States around American values. And then, as I was talking about previously, for the economy, because again, what AI is already doing, even in just these early stages of automation and AI, what we are already seeing are significant job losses. And you know what? The job losses are now concentrated not among blue collar people, but among executive types, among white collar positions, accountants and coders and attorneys being replaced by machines. That is not an environment where we want to invite in millions of foreign workers to compete against Americans in the job market. As a matter of fact, it is quite the opposite. It's when we should be extra stringent upon protecting the laborers of this country for many reasons, but a lot of them being economic. Let me also mention this regarding the job market, Steve. You know, we just got past graduation season here in the United States. Anybody who knows young people knows how bad this job market is for them. They are in the worst position of all because those entry-level positions, white-collar entry-level positions, are the first places that are being automated by most of these gigantic firms. So even young people who are finishing with graduate degrees or bachelor's degrees, even with good degrees, you know, ones that you think are useful from reputational schools or solidly reputational schools, they are really struggling. They're moving home. They're being baristas. They're working in retail because they can't get the jobs they thought they were going to get. And we see that reflected through the macro data. That's not just anecdote if you happen to know young people in your life, but those forces only add to the imperative that we must get control of this immigration system in the United States. President Trump is doing that. He's already gotten operational control of the border, did that within weeks, which is just a magnificent win.
Let's go.
Now we need to amplify and accelerate the deportations and birthright citizenship. All of this, of course, fighting against a tyrannical judiciary, but it appears today is a really, really good win regarding the courts for our side. So let's celebrate that. Let's also be happy, by the way, that these rulings are coming down 6-3. So we are not losing Amy Coney Barrett or Chief Justice Roberts, who have been, you know, at best squishy on a lot of these issues. They're starting to come down on our side. They did last week in the Tennessee decision about protecting children from child mutilation. They're now coming down on our side on things like these national injunctions and birthright citizenship. So thankfully, the momentum, I think, you know, is turning our way, but let's keep pressing. These issues are absolutely critical to saving our country. And yes, to your bigger point, Steve, I think it should only reinforce in all of us the resolve that our problems are here. All right, we had an open border for 4 years. We have Marxists who are in open sedition against the United States in major power centers of America, particularly New York, Illinois, and California. The battles are here in the United States, not in the Middle East, not in the Black Sea.
No, not in Ukraine, and not in the Middle East, and not in Persia. We don't have time to divert our attention. Our country's at stake right now. I mean, this ruling today was to try to tamp down these radical judges about these nationwide injunctions. But hey, the Supreme Court ruled the other day about sending the bad hombres where President Trump as commander-in-chief wants to send them. You've had a judge in Massachusetts say, hey, I don't care. It's not going to change me. And you got these judges in Maryland. We're going to jump to the briefing room as soon as the president or Caroline or any of the officials walk out there to start this. Cortez, one thing I want to leave people with is this. In New York City, what this guy did, look, this is the Red-Green Alliance. You're having a neo-Marxist, a guy that actually says he's a communist, right? Combined with radical jihad. His father's a jihadist. He's, as Raheem said, he's one of the most radical, called the Twelvers, one of the most radical schools of Islam. But he put on a happy face, and I gave NBC News a quote last night that said he kind of took the populist agenda, something that AOC and Bernie Sanders have not stick the landing yet, right? He kind of took a populist agenda and tied it directly to affordability, which played to what the biggest concerns of these young people kind of under 30. He put a happy face on it. You know, he's a former rapper. And this guy's very well trained. Anybody think this guy was not groomed for this or missing the point? He went TikTok and did all this up. His solution, he has no experience, and his solutions are absolutely absurd. That's also actually not the point, because we've imported in this new electorate, and he tapped into that. This is going to be a major issue, and the Republicans got to wake up. I have said this affordability issue speaks to young people, and it actually speaks to everybody, but particularly people under 40 years old. Steve Cortez.
Yes, and by the way, I find this in all of my polling, and I just did extensive national polling, and the affordability issue is front and center on people's minds.
This is big,
and let me
guys.
tell you, people give incredibly high marks to Donald Trump on immigration. We're now reaching levels, and I took these polls right after the LA riots. So not only did it turn people against Trump, but the opposite. It actually steeled the resolve of the American people to get control of our streets and control of our sovereignty. And we're now seeing super majorities in favor of mass deportations. We're getting into the 60s, and depending how you frame the question, and if you add a criminal element, you're even getting into the 70s on that issue. Where there are vulnerabilities right now for Republicans in Washington overall, White House, Congress, everywhere, is the affordability issue, because voters are increasingly starting to blame current leadership in Washington, D.C. for their affordability problems. Now, I think logically the blame still belongs largely with Bidenomics, but nevertheless, people are not always purely logical. And the reality is, and I think decision makers need to know this, not enough do in Washington, D.C., the reality is regular Americans have been in a recession. They cannot afford their lives. That's simply the reality. That is what Bidenomics did to them. It stole away their prosperity through declining real wages. Americans working harder to get poorer. In addition to that, the savings are gone. The really artificial, inflated savings of the COVID panic, they are now gone. So for regular people, they face a real economic predicament, and that is expressed through the polling. It's also expressed through elections like last night. Now, again, they're turning for the exact wrong answers to this foreign Muslim Marxist. However, that cretin, he did correctly identify the angst and address the problem with the wrong answers, but he at least addressed it, which is an affordability crisis. So, and by the way, one of the ways, there's a lot of policy prescriptions for how do we solve this, how do we from the populist right solve this, but one of the ways is, again, immigration control. Why? Well, because not only will it mean real wages will continue to rise, and they are rising under Donald Trump, that's huge, but also the affordability of housing, rents and mortgages that are just simply too high or unattainable. If we remove this ridiculous created demand of millions and millions of invaders trespassing into our country, housing is going to get far more affordable for American citizens. So that alone would have enormous benefits, would increase the prosperity of Americans, make their standards of living feel better, allow them to breathe a little bit easier. You combine that with energy policy, where Donald Trump's doing a great job, and we're seeing the results of it, right? With oil prices coming down, summer gas prices, the lowest they've been now in 3 years. So you're seeing the results there. You combine immigration control with other sensible economic policies like a pro-energy revolution, ending the green scam. All of this can work. I mean, we have solutions, and we can get out of this corner, but we need to realize that because of Biden, we are in a corner right now, and that regular people are hurting, and their concerns are valid.
Guys, and that is, again, when I go back to all the investigations that are happening right here, is from Representative James Comer. Up here, Representative James Comer, that he is now summoned Karine Jean-Pierre, Ian Sams, Andrew Bates, Jeff Zients. While all this stuff is happening with Trump and the big beautiful bill, Comer is doing more than I think anybody else is in actually holding the previous administration accountable. Here are all the receipts over all the letters that went out, said get your butt to Washington, because guess what? We're going to have you testify under oath, and we're going to hold you accountable. If you appreciate this, guys, if you don't mind hitting the thumbs up, like button. Guys, I want to say, if you're not subscribed to our channel, consider joining our family here at TrueLife News. We want to serve you every day with the top news. So much is going on, guys, and you know we bring the receipts. We appreciate everybody who is watching, all of our subscribers, all of our viewers, all of our members, guys. We could not do it without you, and we are so grateful that we get to serve you with the top news every day. America first, baby. MAGA. Let me know in the chat if you're America first MAGA, because that's what we're all about. We need to clean house, and Trump and his dream team are finally doing it. Want to say again, too, thank you to everybody who is a member who's given a super chat donation. Remember, when you give, you donate, we take that money, we donate it live on stream to local charities on this live on the stream on the 22nd of every single month. Every single time, guys, and we show you with full transparency. And this is what I love. This month, we're going to be giving to a local children's home, guys. This is huge, huge stuff. Want to give some love to Mr. Tracy J. Norby, OG of the channel, Edward Wheeler, MZ Mocha, 54, aka April Green, Thomas Otranto, Squint 61, Sassy Madeline, Kemp Goer 1, Tree Man, Della Cole, Sue Ellen, Susan Barnett, Andy, Macrolog, MZ Mocha again. Guys, thank you so much for your support. We are growing this family. We're growing the truth, and we are spreading it out. We thank you so much whenever you like our videos, share our videos, and we just want to continue to serve you. We love you, appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.